Recently, I had a great conversation with Fred, the co-founder of finder.com.au, one of Australia's largest comparison websites, which receives more than 4 million visitors per month. At the age of 26, Fred entered the comparison market, one of the most highly competitive online categories in Australia. We talked about his entrepreneurial journey, overall career, and how he got to where he is today. And I can't wait for you to hear it. So let's cut to it now.
No, absolutely nice to meet you. I know, do you remember Russ McCumber? He interviewed you. Would have been the bullshit radar.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So he's one of my boys here. And I'm sending him over to Austin. He's opening up the Austin office. And I think you guys, I was actually listening to the to the podcast, and you guys had we're having a chat about I guess opening up in the US. I understand that you guys you've got an office over there, or you're starting out over there. Is that right?
Yes, we have pretty big business now. We started in 16.
Oh wow, okay.
In New York. I actually personally went there, which was quite a journey in and of itself. Started to build out finder.com, which is really cool. And then in January of 17, we set up in London. So we got the UK office in London Bridge. Then the end of 19, around October, we set up in Canada, in Toronto.
Awesome.
And there's quite a few. It's probably US about 70 people, UK about 25, it's about 7 in Canada.
Nice. And how many in Australia?
I'm not actually sure. I think it could be 150 plus or something.
Yeah, well, okay,
yeah.
okay. So there's a few people. There's a few people. Man, I'd actually love to hear. I mean, obviously, I've read the story online, and I know your background and I guess where you've come from. But for our listeners and our viewers, like, I'd love to hear your story. Like, how did you even get here? I'm always pretty keen, right? From entrepreneur to entrepreneur. Like, we've obviously got very fascinating stories. I'm an architect turned marketer. I can talk about that for days. But like, I know you did a finance degree. Like, how did you end up here?
Yeah, I think I'm just and always have been quite a curious person. When I was a kid, I climbed trees and rode bikes and skateboards.
Well, I used to be a professional skateboarder, believe it or not, semi-pro.
Wow.
Yeah, I was semi-pro till 17, and then I fractured my hip. Doctor gave me an ultimatum, said, "You've got two options. You quit now, and it should heal and you should be okay by the time you're 21, or you continue and you'll probably need a hip replacement by the time you're 21. So there you go. No one knows that about me. It's like this little thing I pull out every now and then, and everyone's like, what? There's no fucking way you're a bloody skateboarder.
You still skate?
No, man, I haven't. I was a street skater. I haven't been on a board in years. And I'm wondering if it's like riding a bike, right? I'm going through midlife crisis at the moment. I'm like, what if I just bought a board and just went down, hit the street and just see what happens, So I'm just more curious like you, right? I'm curious to see have I still got it? I jumped on a board about 4 years ago, and I was still, I managed to ollie into a kickflip and land both of them. So look, it's been years, like 15 years or something since I've like semi-pro, sponsored. I was breaking decks like every 2 hours, just running down to the store, giving another one. It was awesome. It was an awesome experience, So there you go. We share something in common.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really good fun. I'll if I find my sponsor video, I'll flick it through to you.
Yeah, I'd love to see it.
There's some really cool stuff in there. I was doing like roof gaps and rails and all sorts of stuff. It's crazy.
Oh,
yeah,
next level.
Yeah. No, it was really cool stuff. Smashed my nuts a few times. Thought, am I ever going to have kids again? Yeah, it's good. It was exciting. Good times.
Wow. I was nowhere near as professional. More just getting up to no good, really.
Yeah.
Climbing trees and building cubby houses and stuff down, starting fires, like.
So you definitely like the process of building things.
Yeah, creating stuff and exploring. And then I used to go and hang out every now and then in the computer room because I like to build computer games so as that everyone could play them.
Yeah.
And mess around with the computers. And, this is way back in the day, right? Before PCs. This is like micro Bs and stuff in the 80s. So, I just like to build stuff and create things, in different formats. School's kind of tough to encourage that. I think I was very, onto a very structured learning place, and found university, less structured. So and I just sort of wander. And I found the internet, and I just started unpacking it and building it and creating stuff, like building websites. I was like, this is sick, and just taught myself. Like, I knew how to code, but then I taught myself how to code internet languages. And from that, I kind of I found something where I could, I learned how to sell and websites to people and market them, and that was great. It was a brutal business, and I did that at university and left, and did that with my business partner Frank, and we sold that business eventually, but that taught us pretty much everything not to do in a business, one, and two, taught us also at the same time everything to do about what business models to build and what works really well and which kind of businesses, where's the money, if you know what I mean. And I thought, a large amount of the money seemed to come from finance. Finance just seems to be a good, finance people have money.
I'd be worried if they didn't.
And they pay their bills as well, it's great. I think that mastery of building websites and marketing for people, and then translating that to doing it for yourself, it seems like an obvious intuitive leap to just go and, build a website. It's obvious, but what to actually do and which actual site to do, that was not obvious. We built a credit card finder was one of them. We built a Sudoku site, we built a poker site, a sports betting site, a Mother's Day present site, we built christmasday.com.au, and I think those were all great experiments, but what we realized was the credit card site had, instant scale and great economics around it. And we couldn't see it at the time, but we thought, hey, what about, let's register home loan finder and personal loan finder just for kicks. And eventually, we started to build on those. And we left the other public company that we were working at, and we went into doing this full time. We thought, hey, let's go and do this. And I think it's probably, I don't think we had a massive strategy just other than to grow it. That was pretty much it. Just compare more things and get more credit people to buy more credit cards from us, basically. And I think that what's interesting about that is, as we started doing that, we realized, as we talked to customers and got the feedback about the website and realized the social impact that we made to people's lives. Like, we would get these emails saying, oh my God, thank you so much. I just saved like $170 a month on my credit card. And I would never have known how to do this unless it was for your website. I hope there's someone at the end of this email. Thank you so much. And that was like, whoa, where this is a thing. Like, this is, we're talking about people's lives, like, and their, whether they buy their kid a bike at Christmas or not, or whether that single mom, is able to buy the sewing machine so that she can go and build a wedding dress to get that extra $1,000 so that her child, is able to go and play soccer. And that was kind of trippy, right? And there's different areas that are not as, I guess, altruistic to a large degree, but credit in and of itself is, I don't know, it has some stigma around it, but in the main big sense, every market in the, you could look at the top and the bottom of the bell curve of what you're doing, and you could say, oh, it's really bad because of this, it's really good because of that, but most of it's in the middle. Most of life's in the middle. It's this gray, blurry, brown mess of not quite this and not quite that. That's the majority of things that happen, right? And everyone just judges it by the top and the bottom. But most people, you get a good service, and that's great, right? And I think we just sort of took that and went, okay, how can we genericize that? And that's where Finder really was just born out of. Was actually, I downloaded the top 1,000 keywords out of Google for the keyword credit card, which was the most popular, because back then keyword stuffing in domain names was how you rank number one.
Yeah.
And
footers, footer links.
Words under images and all sorts of things.
Yeah. White on white, black on black.
I tried a lot of things which I never tried again, but they worked, but they're not long-term strategies.
Yeah.
I just downloaded that, and it was, creditcard.com.au, not available, creditcards.com, not available, and just went down the list. Number 6 was credit card finder, available, cool, register, that's the name, let's go. That was it.
Yeah.
And that's really all the thought was. I think what's instructive about that is, yes, you can have a strategy, you can cook up all these ideas, you can plan, and you can test and learn. But sometimes you could just execute from all the mastery that you've developed, and then figure out the strategy after that, and you've got a business. But that is going to take an investment of 7 years to master some pretty serious things. It's much easier.
I bloody love that. I love that, because it's very much the way that I operate. I can, we can sit here and draft out business plans till the cows come home, right? And then you get hit by COVID. Guess what? It's just a waste of time, right? Or you can just execute and just develop as you go. So yeah, I totally resonate with that, and totally agree with it. Totally agree with it.
It's been an entirely new challenge. I think this, I think the story is, how do you deal with a crisis? I think there's a personal health challenge, there's a financial challenge, there's a business challenge, there's a motivation challenge, there's a family challenge, And I can imagine during a wartime or during a major revolution or some sort of immense upheaval, people would experience the same kind of multi-dimensional impacts, just everyone got it at the same time this time. I think I feel like in general I've been quite good to deal with change. Like I think I embrace it to a large degree, just because I come up with so many different ideas that I let Darwin and Mr. Evolution basically kick them all as hard as they possibly should be kicked until one survives.
Yeah.
And the survival of the ideas is kind of my thing. So I part of me like really found that whole experience quite tough, and it was very tough, and it has been very tough. And part of me saw it as an incredible life challenge.
You talked there about, to me, what almost sounds like the purpose of Finder, right? Like it's changing people's lives. I think from a consumer's perspective, I'll take my marketing hat off, but as a consumer, I just think of Finder as a comparison site, right? But from a business, like I'd almost ask the question, like, what drives you? You know, like what is it that gets you out of bed in the morning? You know, why? I guess for me, I'm a big fan of just like figuring out your purpose in life. Right, we get up every morning, we go and do our thing, we build businesses, we break them, we start again, we refine. And I think big question I've been asking myself over the last few months is like, why am I actually doing all this? You know, like, what is my actual purpose? And I landed on something personally anyway that was to really lead and support those around me so they can actually build the life that they desire. Right. I mean, I'm in the service based, you know, we do websites and SEO and marketing, and we're a digital agency. So you've lived that space, right? You get it. Now I've obviously got other investments and other products and things that I do on the side, but that was big for me. It was like, okay, so now this is why I get out of bed in the morning. You know, I dug pretty deep to get there. And then from that, obviously with Impressive has got a purpose and a North Star. We know where we're heading and why we exist. And it's on the back of bloody all my t-shirts, right? It's to drive business performance through impressive marketing. But, you know, like for Finder, you said something there which really caught my attention is, you know, you changing people's lives. Talk to me about that, man. Like, is that like, has that been defined as like almost a vision or I hate using the word mission and vision, but is that like the purpose of Finder? Like, is that why Finder exists?
Yeah. So our vision is to better all the world's decisions.
Okay. Yep.
And you know, we very specifically chose a few different components. You know, if you break that down, it's to make things better, a better decision.
Yeah.
And all the world was our decision, right? To choose to go and leave Australia and do more than that. That was a pretty big, like,
that's huge.
It was, yeah, it's very punchy. And decision is a big word as well, right? So I think, you know, we're building new technology and better technology to do this. I think what's the purpose? Well, it's in some small way, if we help, you know, inform people, give them the information they need in some small way, by them making a better decision in their life, they'll end up in a better place.
Which is life-changing, right? If I'm comparing two cards and, you know, and ultimately I'm saving money, that is changing my life in one way, shape or form, right?
Right. I think, so people feel good about that, you know, because you know, your life is a whole series of just basically choices that you've made.
Yeah.
People believe that, you know, you don't make those choices, but we won't go down that rabbit hole now. But you know, I think you can make the choice to go and compare, and not everyone does. Most people don't. But the people who do, they want to be informed. They, you know, if you zoom out, I think people who in general, you know, inform themselves and make some sort of comparison are probably going to get themselves a percentage better deal than other people who don't. Some people just luck on it and they ask their friend, and, you know, that's great. But some people don't have anyone to ask, and a lot of people, you know, if you go back in time, so one of the big things that happened when, you know, people started family. I don't know if this is a big trend, but it sort of started to happen, I'd say around the 50s and 60s is where, and even I guess more towards the 70s as well, is, you know, when you get to 20 or 25, you move out.
Yeah.
You go live with your friends or flatmates, or you're by yourself. You go back in time, no one left their family. Why would you leave? That's crazy. You just bring on more expense. And the main reason is that if you fell down, you would die, essentially. Like, no one's there to pick you up. Like, you can't recover.
Yeah.
But now there's enough institutions and corporations that, either through insurance or institutions where, like, the government has put things in place so that you can recover by yourself. Independently, you can recover. And that's a big change in this world, right? But what does that actually bring? Well, when you live by yourself, you start making your own choices. And you're going to ask yourself. And so people need to get informed. and this is a trend. This trend wouldn't have been around in the past, right? And it's still growing, right? You know, people when they move out, they get their own health insurance, they get their own family, they get, you know, they start paying electricity, or, you know, who do I choose? Your cell phone plan, all those kind of things, right? I think that's probably an underlying trend, which has driven part of this. I think there's been a Cambrian explosion in brands coming onto the market, and there's a lot of disruption and innovation happening in financial services, particularly banking, mortgages, shared broking. You know, I think these are money transfers in particular as well. They're rapidly changing, right? And so what does that do? It makes more choice. Now I'm like, oh my goodness, now I need to include those in my consideration set. I didn't think about those. And you want to know, is it worth it? You know, can I basically get a better deal? So these are some themes that I think are driving this comparison and this need to make it easy, right? I just want to like I'm going to be super brutal, but like people don't really want to go and compare. Like you get a bit of a dopamine hit out of getting a good deal, like a little bit of a hit. You're like, yeah, I got a really good deal, you know. At the end of the day, you know, it's not like it's good, but it's not like, you know, you're gonna wake up and like do it every single day because it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a grudge, right? You got to do a bit of work.
Yeah.
You know, there's a hit in it, you know, and that's great. So what I've always thought is, given the nature of the what we're doing, how can you either one, inform so as that it's very easy to do, so educate, and two, you know, how can we start to build technologies that make it easy? And what do I mean by that? Well, you know, very much so I'm going to come back to this whole purpose thing, right? I'm you know, our purpose being helping people make better decisions and living a better life because of it. The thing is, it's gathering the data, it's analyzing it, and then there's the taking of the action and making the decision. All of these things are multidimensional in general, but fundamentally we're building technology and systems to go and make that a lot easier for people to go and do. And then ultimately you just get yourself into a better situation. You know, like, you know, if you're paying $100 a month on your mobile phone and you could pay 30, that's a serious saving. That's, you know, that's $840 a year. That's a lot of money. If you save 1% of your home loan, you're probably going to save yourself 30 grand over the lifetime of your mortgage. You know, that's a serious saving. And I know categorically from our data, people are paying like 3, 4, 5%, and there's 2% rates out there right now.
Absolutely. And there's been another interest rate cut, right? I mean, hopefully, whether that gets passed on or not. But yeah, absolutely. There's so much savings right now, right? So much. I would imagine that, like, even during COVID, like, I'm just using some third-party tools, some of which I'm sure you heard of, like, we use all the time, is AH and SEMrush. But like traffic over the last 6 months, have you guys? I would imagine that you guys have just been chock-a-block, right? Like, everyone's sitting at home, bored, consuming so much media, getting and going through tasks and things that have been on their to-do list for a long time. And some of those might be to review all their insurances and their credit cards and home loans and finances, right? Has that been the case?
So yeah, I think definitely people are doing that. Yes.
Yeah.
They are. I would say they already were to some extent. Like people. Yeah. But yeah, you'd be surprised. Like, yeah, I think the big one is people's home loan. I think that's where there's a major amount of interest right now. I think people are investing in stocks. A lot of interest in that. Yeah. Everyone got really annoyed at their broadband, like really annoyed.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's been a big category.
Yeah.
But I think more so, and this is kind of counterintuitive potentially, is I think people have just been cutting back. So they've been downloading the app. They look at their spend analytics and they just cut off that gym service and that subscription and that food subscription service and the extra streaming service, but I can just have one or whatever have you, right? There's just been, I think people are just cutting back, and what we've seen is a dramatic increase in savings. People just saving more money. And because of that, they feel kind of like they've got lots of money because the government's been paying them lots of money. And so you get this different behavior where now we're seeing a lot more spending, which is probably the most counterintuitive thing that you would have expected, but it's actually, what was supposed to be encouraged. And so because of that, there is, unfortunately or fortunately, not sure which way, there are a lot of people who aren't experiencing financial stress. And they have those products and they're subscribed and they don't really mind what's going on. They're just keeping it as it is. But for the people who need to change and need to move, they're probably cutting services rather than switching services.
Yeah, and I guess probably the biggest question right now is what happens when they cut JobKeeper? Because obviously that's a big financial investment and injection into the economy. And the intention behind it is, hey, we're going to give you money and hopefully you're going to go out and spend it and we'll keep the economy afloat. And they cut JobKeeper in March or whenever they're going to cut it. And I wonder the impact that's going to have. I personally think, they're saying we're in a recession. I personally think we're in a depression, not even a recession. And I think it's probably going to get worse around that time period, just before the end of financial last quarter. That's my own sort of personal take on things, because right now it's just like, it's almost like this fake economy, right? It's not real, right? Because they've injected cash into it and people are spending, right? And we're seeing it even like from a marketing perspective. I'm sure you're all over this, right? Like we're seeing trends in online retail, electronics, consumer goods, yada, yada, yada. So you strip away JobKeeper and what's going to happen? I reckon it's going to be a very interesting world on the other side of Christmas.
I agree with you. I'd be fascinated to understand, you must also see, I could imagine there's a dramatic increase in media and the number of impressions that are available and the prices to acquire customers probably
huge. And we're like, there was, probably a little bit after the first lockdown, I saw some of the cheapest CPM costs on Facebook and Google I have ever seen in my 12 years of marketing. Unbelievable. Like there was the CPM cost was so cheap. And naturally you've got a lot of retailers that are just investing bucket loads of money into it. Like we've got a number of big clients, whether it's Mitre 10 or some of the biggest retailers, and they're seeing some of the best growth they've ever seen online. You've got consumers who are sitting there and, they're sitting at home and they're just, as I said, they're consuming so much media, right? So much media and Google and your Facebooks and your big media guys, they're almost cornered and put in a position where they have no choice but to reduce their fees. So, we advise a lot of our clients to take the opportunity and it's paying back dividends and more, it's paying back really good returns. I have no doubt that it'll probably, we're going into arguably probably the busiest time of the year, right? With Christmas around the corner. I wouldn't be surprised if they start lifting up their prices. Cost per click is probably going to go up a bit. CPMs are probably going to go up because this is key period, right? Black Friday around the corner. There's a lot of key events coming up. This is for us as an agency, and we predominantly focus on e-commerce and retail and fashion. Like that's our game. This the Q2 is like our biggest Q throughout the entire year. Retailers just throw bucket loads of money at it. So it's been quite interesting. And I actually think, there's a lot of opportunity during COVID, right? Like I reckon there's going to be some emerging industries, like not even businesses. I'm talking new industries that will evolve out of what we've just gone through. I reckon there's a lot of businesses out there and probably in the tech space that are just cooking, right? They're simmering at the moment, right? And then come into 2021 and there's going to be these like big bangs of software companies that just, evolve and yeah. So I think 2021 is going to be a very exciting year. we've all been punished in 2020, but I think that, that the smart ones are the ones that have been investing in the right tech, that have been developing the right technology, that is pandemic proof. Because who knows, right? Who knows what's going to happen? So I strongly believe that 2021 we're going to see some very interesting businesses evolve and emerge, and even some new industries. That's my thinking. I've always been a big fan of search, right? Like that's my world. It's where I've come from, SEO predominantly. That's how I started my first ecom brand, and very much like yourself, right? I used to put bloody stuff the footer with keywords and white on white and black on black. Like I used to live on black hat world. This is going back, when I was in uni days. So this is good 12, 13 years ago. I built my first website and I was importing products from the US to Australia, and I built this brand, and and it was awesome. But, so I've always had a bit of a soft spot for that space. I don't do any of that stuff anymore, but it's and some of the trends that we are seeing in the digital landscape, and just on even the SERP through Google and some of the other platforms has been incredible to watch. Some of the trends are really, really, really fascinating, incredibly fascinating. What's the so where you talked a lot about technology, right? Are you guys developing a lot of your own proprietary tech tools, systems? I'm assuming obviously you've got some already. What does it look like? What does the future hold there?
Yeah, so we're heavily invested in in this app we built, and we continue. There's probably about 50,000 members now using it. We're just continuing to build out the functionality and make it better and better and better. So it becomes more intuitive. It becomes, it's our first real service. I know that sounds strange, but it's where something you sign up and you join, and we're hiring. We just hired someone from a big bank, which is great.
Smart.
And they can, they're giving us so much insight about where the loopholes are, where's the gaps, where's the opportunities, and which is great. And then there's, just so I spent a lot of time doing cryptocurrency. I went really down the rabbit hole with that, and I built a cryptocurrency brokerage, and we sold that business.
Nice. We were the first agency on a global scale to accept crypto as payment.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I got pretty deep into the rabbit hole as well with crypto. Anyway, we can go here on. We can spend days on this topic.
I think it's a great business, and we still have a big business on Finder that helps people, compare exchanges and find wallets and all sorts of things, right? I just think that there's a lot of opportunity in the confluence of some of these new technologies, and taking sort of the eyes out of, I guess, some of them and implementing them. I think there's some beauty in them, and so I'm going all in on building tech and delivering incredible services all around the world with some of these new emerging technologies, because I think that's where the future is with finance. And part of it's crypto, and part of it's open banking, and part of it's open finance in general as well. Part of it's digital identity, and kind of wrapping a lot of those things together in some just very neat service offerings. And so I think that's kind of where I'm very long, and where I'm super excited about just building things which no one's ever done before. And that sounds
Man, like I love that. No, I love it. I mean, if just looking at the fintech space for a while, like we don't have to go far. Air Wallets, right? I mean, they just raised another, what was it, $56 million or something. Like it's an awesome success story. Those guys, really, really cool. So I think you're definitely onto something. And if you can, bring that to the global stage, it's another Australian success story, right? And we're definitely on the map. There's been some amazing tech that have come out of Oz. Global expansion, or is it global domination for you? I mean, you're already in the US and the UK. There's not really much left. You've pretty much got APAC, Europe. Thought about Europe?
Yeah, Europe's an interesting market, and they're big on regulation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no surprise there.
Southeast Asia is also very interesting. Again, very emerging. Got us, I don't see us really participating that much in China. I think it's a bit, you need a very sharp angle, and there's extraordinarily high capital requirements.
Yeah.
Like the competition is, it's beyond even the next level. But I think there's a lot of space. It's a big world, and there's a lot of space to make some impact, and I'm excited about that. Very excited.
Love it, man. I love it. What are your top 3 hacks? I love asking this question, right? Entrepreneurs, business owners, CMOs, what are some of the top 3 that you'd like to share with me and our listeners?
And maybe in terms of hacks, maybe just contextualize that for me a little bit.
Give me 3 top tips for anyone that's looking to, how about we go with anyone that's looking to start a business in the current climate? Because I think we both agreed, right, that it is different. You got to look at things from a different lens.
Yeah, I think where I was gonna start somewhere right now. That's really interesting.
Yeah. What would you do? If you were to start Finder right now in September 2020, knowing what you know, and taking some of those learnings, what do you reckon you'd do differently?
Jeez.
Big question, isn't it? I know I put you on the spot there a bit, but
well, what's great is that I don't have like a large amount of creativity on it. That's a good sign. Because I feel relatively confident about some of the trajectory we've gone on. I do think there's probably a degree of risk, so I'd just be more outrageous, more just take more risks. Essentially, it's not very hard to just push something a little bit further than it should be pushed, and then suddenly you're in a risky territory. And I think that's where risk management and damage control comes in. And anyone who says entrepreneurs aren't reckless, I think entrepreneurs are actually incredible risk managers. And what they're doing is they're saying that risk, yeah, I'm going to take that on, and I'm going to bet against the house on that one because I think the house is wrong. And
so you reckon we're calculated gamblers?
Well, I think great gamblers aren't really gamblers. They're actually just great mathematicians.
I would agree with that. I've always said poker's not is not gambling.
And there are some, they mainly play angles where the odds are stacked towards them. They go to sports games, they sit in the audience, and they manage that 7 seconds between the delay of the real sport and the actual sport numbers that come out, and they put bets on and stuff like that, right? They find the edges, or they find the drunk people who are betting with their team, which is never going to win, and then they bet against them. And like there's edges, right, in all those things. That's professional. I see very little difference with those people taking the other sides of those bets and a stock market.
Yeah.
Market is people betting at someone else saying you're wrong. And the market is a zero-sum game, right? It's people find out very quickly. Really in options. I think in stocks it's slightly different, right? You're holding and you're investing, and there's a whole other series of things on that. But particularly in stocks, right? I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is I would move to a new space, something which has just been created, and I would play there because no one has any idea how to play there.
Yeah.
And I think everyone's actually struggling quite a bit with innovation right now, like a lot. So and why is that? Well, they're just trying to survive.
That's right.
And then the second part is they're now trying to innovate as well. So many companies are in a very challenging spot, but I think a lot of companies have pivoted and they've adapted to something new. The question is for them is, are they going to also start up their old business and keep that going at the same time? That's interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting. For us, I think, the answer is yes. Like we set up a few new businesses during that time, and, we're going to continue investing in those, which was great. I think the other thing, from a third point, what would I do? I would go look at my mastery and what I'm really good at. And I would go and do a really big recruitment drive and interview like 100 people, maybe even 200. And I would just find peculiar and unusual, incredible talent. And I would just gather those people together and say, right, we're going to go and do something outrageous. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I've got a hunch. And I would look at my past experience and I would say, what am I good at? What have I done? What do I know? What do I know to be true that no one else knows and believes? And I would go and just put it all in on that. So let me take a step back. I wouldn't say all in as in all of my wealth. I would put my first bet all in on something. So I keep it small, but I would be all in on the idea. My conviction would be very strong when I say all in. So that I'm removing the poker term there. My conviction. And then I'd find out, did this work or not? And it'd be a small test. And then very quickly we would know. And then we would adapt and move and adapt and continue with very strong conviction that we will truly find something. And that's generally my approach to most things.
Man, I so love that last point. We very much do think alike. I'm always trying to find the best talent. I've always said the way that I run my business is always people, clients, revenue, right? Because if you can get the first two right, the revenue will come, right? And generally, if your people are happy and they love what they do, they'll never work a day in their life, and the clients will feel it, and naturally, they'll pay their bills. And I think there's so much good talent right now in the market that are up for grabs. So I definitely agree with you. If you can pull together an army of just geniuses and then figure out what the opportunity is later, right? I love that. I reckon it's great. It's definitely a great perspective and a great way to look at it. Fred, man, it's been an absolute pleasure. Really, I've enjoyed our chat. How do people get in touch with you? I mean, are you on social, or I'm assuming probably LinkedIn is?
Yeah, hit me up on the LinkedIn. That's normally where I hang out. I'm on Instagram. I have a profile there, but LinkedIn is my channel, and I lean into LinkedIn a lot.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I know. I follow you. I watch a lot. Follow a lot of your posts. Well, Fred, ladies and gentlemen, the co-founder of Finder. I hope you've enjoyed it. Fred, thank you again, mate. It's been, as I said, an absolute pleasure, and hopefully one day we'll meet in person when they open the borders again.
Would love to, and Robert, good luck with, and I really appreciate what you're doing in terms of helping people create great businesses with your marketing.
Love it, man. Thank you very much.